So the next thing that I would do is, I know in general that I would like my strings to be a little bit more bitey, a little more aggressive. And actually, now that I'm hearing that out of context, I think my reverbs are too much. So I'm going to reduce my reverbs again. So with something like strings, it is not uncommon to add saturation or distortion of some kind. And so for me, I very frequently will add just a little bit of distortion, and it's going to add a little bit of bite. We can keep it on the rodent. That's emulating our rat pedal, I think. So that's what it would really sound like. But if we just do a little bit, it adds a little bit of that bite, forward, grit, all of those things that is going to be really helpful to have those come through the mix as we go on. And so then again, what I might do, just multiple stages. Now that we're there, we've got our distortion and stuff going on, probably cut some of the lows again. Gonna open it up a little bit there. Maybe a little bit more compression. Again, this is all just very basic baseline stuff here. Okay, I'm going to do this exact same thing with my brass, except I'm going to be even more aggressive with it. So brass work really well, brass work really well with distortion on them because they already sound kind of distorted when they get really bitey. So one of the things that I would probably do here is just add the same distortion. This is not an industry standard technique. I was taught this, and there are other people who do it, but for me in particular, this is kind of like one of my secrets in that I add distortion, a little bit of distortion to like brass and strings almost every mix. So that sounds pretty distorted, right? But in the mix, it's actually just giving them bite more than anything else, right? Especially like listen to the low brass. You can actually, I've gone as far as like pushing those like way higher than that too in terms of distortion. And the idea is not to make it sound artificial, right? So if we were just, I have no idea why this doesn't want to solo everything when I'm hitting S this time around, really annoying. But if we were just listening to the orchestra, that doesn't sound artificial, does it? That doesn't sound like, oh, this is a hybrid piece, so we use distortion. That actually just sounds like an orchestra. It's the subtle extra harmonics being added by the saturation and distortion. Cool. Now that we're here, we've got a basic level rundown here. This would be my starting point. From here, I'm going to go ahead and get levels and start mixing all of the hybrid stuff into. So I'm just going to listen from the beginning and start adjusting things. I want my pad louder. I can bring this up a little bit too. I actually might want a little bit of reverb on this just to make it an effect. So on the instrument itself, I'm going to send it to the reverb. Let's see if I like that more. Actually, I'm going to do it on both. That's kind of cool. I'm going to bring the level up a little bit because it's not going to be a big issue. I definitely still want my high strings louder. So I'm going to overall, I'm going to take all of my high strings. Remember how earlier I lowered them by like 9 dB? I'm just going to bring them up a little bit because they're struggling to come out in the mix. I say a little bit, but that was 4 dB change. So that's going to be pretty drastic. Remember, now that I've adjusted it here, they're going to be hitting the compressor slightly differently. I would actually argue that these strings sound too compressed now, so I'm just going to go ahead and not do that. Some of you might be wondering about panning right now, how I would start the panning of this orchestra. I want to be clear that most sample libraries these days, if you're using the same sample library, the panning and some of the mixing is already done for you. The higher quality libraries already have panning and some of the mixing done. And so you will hear, I did not pre-pan this. You can see that that is centered as all get out. And it's on the right. That is not centered. It's the same thing going on with all of these. They're already placed in their specific stereo image. Okay. This modular icon synth thing, I think, can come up. This is very like, this is starting to sound very Unreal Tournament to me. If any of you played the OG, like the 1998 Unreal Tournament or something, which I totally did, played a bunch of that. And so I'm going to lean into that actually, where we're going for this like sort of 2000s era spy shooter thing. With that, we're now going to go ahead and actually control some levels here. So I want my strings to come up with that when that comes up. So this is actual volume automation. So I'm going to put a dot here and here. And I'm just going to bring them up a little bit right there so that that blend is better. So this is a cooler focus. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like that choice as much. I think we just lean into the modular icons. Okay, so what I'm hearing here is I'm actually hearing a big lack of sub-frequencies, which normally wouldn't be that big of an issue because we want this transition to hit hard. So now I have to question, because remember, this transition is going to hit with sub-frequencies galore. Right. So once that hits, I have to question whether or not I want it to hit as hard by having more bass frequencies here or what I'm doing. So I think I want my basses, so my low strings, to have a little bit more of the low end opened up. So I'm actually going to open it up a little bit more here, just to get a little bit more of that sub-frequency. Yep. Remember, we have this. This is more of a texture than like to be heard. I don't want that being heard too much. Here's the issue. Our melody is getting lost. Our melody's totally getting lost. So over here, I think I need to bring my piccolo up in the pre-gain. And then I'm actually going to see where it sits and then adjust from there. Yeah. And then what has some melody there? The oboe. I think in this particular instance, the oboe doesn't need to come up overall. But what I'll do is I'll just automate it up a little bit. So in the automation lane, what's happening here, for those of you who don't know, I'm automating it up. I'm telling the volume on the actual fader itself, which I don't have a ton of headroom here, don't have a bunch of room for it. It's going to move up here. It's going to read that automation because I drew it in. I wrote that automation. It's going to read it and bring it up. and then come down. And actually, I think overall my clarinets are a little bit too quiet. So I'm going to bring my clarinets up just a little bit. I don't like how this note really comes in, so I'm going to adjust the modulation on this. I want it to really, let's see if I can. And actually, I think I want it a little bit, I want the note to actually come on. Yeah, I think it's good. Ah, look, the brass has like a melody here that's moving with that, and that I think that needs to come out a little bit. It's going to be difficult to make that happen. I think I'm just going to have the horns be a lead here, just the horns. The reason I put a dot at the beginning and a dot at the end is so that my volume stays the same for the rest of it, and I'm only going to raise it and adjust it for this little section here. Right. I think we're at a really good starting point thus far. This is not, we're nowhere near full mixing, but I don't want to get into deep mixing with dynamic EQs and side chains and all of that kind of stuff. We're just doing the real basics right now. So let's go on. I think our levels in the beginning here are working. Let's go ahead and see if we can get levels for this second half. So what is this? That's hitting like a truck, right? And it actually cuts off pretty quickly. Right. Okay, so that's hitting. And then we've got these right here. Those are more ethereal textures. I don't necessarily always recommend this, but I actually think I want a little bit of reverb on them. I'll do a little bit of algorithmic on them. Actually, I'm gonna... Actually, I don't want to pan them. What I'm going to do, this is a fancier technique, but I'm going to show you guys anyway. So I have a plugin called Pancake 2, and what it will do is it will automatically pan these so that they're always staying in motion left and right. But I don't want them to do it too aggressively, so I'm going to set the mix to 20%. And I also want this to be, I don't know, seemingly random and not be the exact same thing. So I'm just going to have it move around a little bit. And this way, they're not just staying in the middle. And there's actually some motion and stuff happening. This one, let's see. I actually forget how to reset this entirely. It's going to be something like that. There we go. We can just randomize it. That'll work. And so the panning is going to be slightly randomized. And again, it's 20%. So it's like very little. But that way, these don't just stay in the middle the whole time. They're automated panning. Yep. So this is our consistent bass. So we need to figure out how to have that hitting with the basses. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm actually going to bring the volume of this up. I'm going to look at the frequency spectrum here. Let's just see. It's probably going to be a ton of subs. Yeah, it's basically just all subs. I can even bring the subs up. But what I want to do is I am going to sidechain compress this to whatever my low percussion that's hitting. So let's look at the low percussion here. Bringing this up now because right. So the low percussion of the bass drum and maybe the dark impacts, which unfortunately this is going to be slightly annoying. I'm duplicating the dark impacts, and the reason I'm doing this is because my bass hit and my snare hit of this sound need to be separated. Oh, if they want to actually load. Does this one want to load? Why does this not want to load? Okay. So I'm gonna have this as like my quote unquote snare or bass hit. This one's gonna be the quote unquote snare. They're gonna go to the same place, but the reason I do this is so I'm just gonna delete everything that's a snare hit from that one, and then delete everything that's like a bass hit from this one. And you would do the same thing if you were doing a drum kit on one patch. So it's gonna sound the same, but because what I want is my bass to be able to sidechain against this and the bass drum and the nagado ensemble. So my bass here, I want this. I'm going to sidechain compress this, which is the very typical hip hop thing to do, is to sidechain your bass and your kick drum so that whenever the kick drum hits, your bass ducks underneath it, thus making your kick and your bass sound like one sound, thus making your kicks actually hit harder. So what I'm going to do is open up the compressor. I'm going to turn off makeup gain for this because I don't necessarily want it to do makeup gain on that. I'm going to turn on, in Cubase, you just have a little sidechain button. Pretty sure it's the same in all the audio workstations. And then I'm going to do this for bass drum. So damage dark impacts bass and the bass drum, which hits the same time as the nagado ensemble, I believe. So let me just add bass drum Wagner, and let's just do it with the nagado ensemble too. Okay, so it has multiple levels of sidechaining there that it's going to react to. And so we can actually watch it. It's going to dip. So essentially it's going to dip with that. So if I do the bass and, I don't know, the dark impacts and the bass drum. That's the wrong one. And so it just allows the kick to hit a little bit harder and to sort of get out of the way. It's not working as well here because it's not like an actual kick drum and we don't have that much happening. But it is working enough, I believe. This percussion needs to be much louder. So what I'm going to do with this percussion is I'm actually going to, let's see, how do I want to do this? How do I want to make this louder without just compressing it to all get out? I could literally just send the signal louder to it. I probably could because I have enough headroom on there. So if I just boost the gain. I'm actually going to add a little bit of saturation to this mid percussion too, so it bites. Saturation is very similar to distortion. It's just like it's just mids, high mids, all of the different extra frequencies. There's different ways to do it, like on a tape, like old school tape recording, or like through tubes, or like when a needle hits a vinyl record, it's technically saturating the sound because you're getting that hiss. So I'm going to saturate this a little bit. Just give it a little bit more presence. And then we can up the output here actually instead of doing this. So the compressor's gonna hit and then I don't love that compressor's hitting that cymbal there, but we're gonna do multiple stages of compression again. That's fine to me. Yep, that's a good start. Again, we're just getting good mixed starts here. We are not doing everything all at once. which by the way, typically reverses, which I believe this is the only reverse I have actually in the whole piece. I would typically not have in the percussion group. I'd have them hit elsewhere. And so because I'm treating this one like a percussion, I'll leave that one, but I'm gonna actually send this to go directly to the mix and master bus. So then we've got a good start here. I think our timpani could just straight up hit harder. So I'm just gonna bring the whole timpani rolls up on that entire thing. Tubular bells could come up. Yeah, that's cool. Is our melody clear? I think so. Bringing that down a little bit. I actually want more brass here. I want some more horns, so I'm gonna bring the horns up, this down a little bit. I'm automating, I'll probably automate my high strings or my violins down just a little bit. This is not musically changing what they're doing, by the way. I'm not musically changing like how aggressively the player is playing, their dynamics or anything. It's literally just volume, so that we can get the mix better. This is screaming so loud because it's just so high. I'm noticing some programming issues here. This doesn't sound right. That note feels too early. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to bring this up even more. I'm going to let this come down a little bit on that as it hits that. Bring as it hits that top note down. I'm going to bring the strings back up a little bit though. I want that lead string part like building into that. That makes sense to me. Make sure my horns and my strings. Man, maybe I do want that piccolo screaming. Something needs to happen here dynamically. Something's not happening. This instrument, the horns, are literally supposed to be the things that move. So I don't have the most headroom here, which is typically a problem. And so actually, let me see if I can fix this in the programming a little bit. Maybe I programmed it not the best. Yeah, I didn't really program it the best. So let's bring it up. Bring it up. Let's see if that'll help. That absolutely helped. That absolutely helped because what it did is now that note change is making it so things aren't super stagnant the whole time. Okay, there's two more things we need to address, which is exactly those. That's what I was about to address. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the automation, and I want everything to cut when that reverse hits. So right on 41, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. So I want this to just shadoop and this to shadoop, right? Oh, sorry. Actually, it needs to happen right on the automation. So it needs to bada bing, bada boom. Bada bing, bada boom. So. Right. So now we actually have reverb tails that are lasting too. So in order to get all of my reverb tails and everything off too, I'm going to have to, right at this very last minute. I wonder if I can do this across all the tracks. I think so. Nope, sure can't. This is why you don't mess up your automation, people. So draw. Yep. And theoretically, I could get way closer with this and might be more correct, actually. So I'll probably go do that. So that everything is cutting right where I need it to cut. And let me just, yep, 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 yep. Yeah. See, I brought this up a little bit, which is affecting everything, and that happened with the other one too, so I'm really trying not to do that. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I don't know it at the moment, actually. That's reading anyway, so wherever it was. Well, technically they're all reading. That's why I should have put a marker before all of these so that these ones didn't change too. I don't think I adjusted anything too much though. So then we have reverb tails that are doing the same thing. So let me go to my effects channels, and on all of my effects channels, I'm going to have to, I mean, theoretically, I could just do it on the master, I guess. That's probably an easier way to do it than what I'm trying to do here. But let's just do it anyway. So it's going to be there, and then I'm sure there is a better way to do this. Okay. So theoretically, that's almost too much. I think, yeah, that was too extreme. I think I want a little bit of reverb tail, but the reverbs can die out if we want. So don't be doing that to me. No, you know what I want. There we go. And we'll have to decide exactly where we want that. You know what? I'm not convinced. I'm going to undo everything that I just did. See? It's all a learning process. It's all a creative process. I think maybe I want the reverb tails. We'll see. Now that I hear it, musically I kind of like it more. Cool. So the only other thing that we haven't really addressed, I think, in the whole mix is the piano and the harp. So we need to make sure we're getting these two somehow. It's difficult because we already did a whole mix basically with everything working, and these are just getting buried. So I want to make sure that they stand out when they come in, but then they can just sort of settle and nestle back into the mix. So let's listen. Right, we weren't hearing that at all, were we? So I'm going to go over to these, and I'm just straight up going to bring these gain levels up. Probably don't need the lows. This is going to be tricky. So I'm gonna get a little bit of a compressor on there. Same thing here. If you'll notice, we are peaking somewhere in the chain now because things are getting very loud very quickly as things add up, which is actually an okay thing once we're getting closer to the final mix. It just means we're gonna have to watch our levels across the board still, but we do eventually want things to be loud, and that'll be more of a mastering thing. But what I could do is I could literally just up the output of this with like a maximizer or something, and I might just do that after post compressor, just see if we can get a little bit more of it. I think the problem is it's a little muddy, and so because it's muddy, we're gonna have to cut out more of the lows. It's already so reverby. Let me take some of the reverb off, maybe. I'm gonna change it to a slightly harder tone so it has more bite coming through. Now I'm gonna send it to the reverb. And so I really, truly, I don't need it loud. I want it louder when it first hits. Okay, I think maybe orchestration wise, this wasn't the best orchestration choice because everything else is just covering it, like really truly covering it, and this is just going to be a background filling the frequencies thing, because if I try to bring this out now, it's just not going to happen. So I'm curious. I'm very curious if I bring this whole thing up an octave. If I messed up my orchestration, it needs to be here. That's definitely where it needs to be, and now I think it's too loud. It's an orchestration choice. Y'all see how the orchestration of the frequency ranges can mess up your mix? And now, to be honest with you, it sounds pretty synthetic. So I'm gonna put this back where it was. And I'm going to leave it sort of buried in the mix just to fill harmonic language. I don't love that answer, but it's a real answer. It's a truthful answer that you would get from a real mix engineer. Let's address the harp. this I'm gonna saturate. And I'm gonna bring up the, I'm gonna make sure I'm cutting out the lows. I don't want the highs right there boosted, but I want the clarity of it boosted. So, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking musically, I wondered if I could showcase the harp and piano for like one beat or something. There'd be like, if I was really getting, okay, I'm not gonna do it, but if I was really getting creative with like the musical elements here, it'd be very interesting on like a beat 4 of like right here. Something like that, to where it like cuts and just showcases that. I don't think it would necessarily work the best here, but it's certainly an idea. So that's definitely the basics of mixing.